Hello guys, welcome to Java Macha. So in this video we are going to learn the concept of object oriented programming. So what are we waiting for? Let's start the show. First of all, let us understand what is OOPS. OOPS stands for Object Oriented Programming System. This object oriented programming is an approach to build softwares based on the objects. Okay, if you want to build any application using the object oriented programming approach, then your application completely will have objects. Let me write it down here. So generally if we are writing any code or any project, if we are writing, so we will be thinking about the steps, functions only majorly, correct? So but OOPS encourages us to think in terms of things as objects. It encourages us to think as characteristics. Characteristics are here as a data. So it encourages to think as a actions as a behaviors. So for suppose if you have taken one employee, you need to store the employee details means, so everything will be stored in objects here. We will discuss about objects later in this video itself. Things we will discuss as an object. So employee I will consider as a object, and his data, so his name, his phone number will be there, right? Those are all nothing but characteristics, so those are data. Be actions nothing but, so what are the employee's task, so the details, so what employee will do, what is the work, what are the actions he is going to perform, so those are all nothing but here behaviors. In OOPS, a program is a collection of objects that interact with each other to perform a task. If you are having a program that is completely based on object oriented programming approach, means the program will be having collection of objects and those objects will interact with each other to perform task. Okay, collection of objects and those objects will interact with other to perform a task. It means in OOPS, if you are writing one program, that program is completely based on object oriented approach, means then the program is a collection of objects that definitely interact with each other to perform a task. Any task is there, if you need to perform, that will be based on objects itself. This is about a small introduction about OOPS. Hope you guys got a clarity on what is OOPS. Next, we have to understand how OOPS thinks differently. Traditional programming languages like C will be focused more on what steps should the program execute. So, but when it comes to OOPS, it is going to focus on which objects exist in the system and how do they interact. Okay, so generally we will see in the steps only, but when it comes to object oriented programming approach, we will be seeing which objects are present in the system and how the objects are going to be interacted. Let me add it here. Let me explain with you an example. In a banking application, if you see, instead of writing only procedures like create account, deposit money and withdraw money, OOPS will ask that what is an account, what data does it have, what operations can be performed on it. Okay, so the system is designed around account, customer, transactions, etc. Okay, basic majorly on the objects part here. Let me add it here. Okay, if you see in a banking application here, instead of writing the procedures like steps like create account, deposit money, withdraw money and all, instead of that, OOPS will ask that what is an account, what data it have, and what are the operations can be performed on it. It means account is an object. You can imagine as of now, account as an object. So what does that account have internally, and what is the operations performed? Okay, it means completely on a object. So the system is designed around account, customer, transactions, etc. So it is going to completely think about the objects. Now let us understand why OOPS was introduced. If you understood this, so you will get a complete clarity on how OOPS thinks differently and why OOPS was introduced, why we are using that and all, everything we will be getting a clarity. Let's see this. Why OOPS was introduced? Before OOPS, programs were using procedural programming. So when you have seen the C programming language, this is a traditional programming language, right? So it uses procedural programming. Java is using object oriented programming. Okay, what is the difference? Why we are not using procedural programming? Why we are using object oriented programming? Because when it comes to procedural programming, we will be having some problems. Okay, that problems we overcome in the oops. So what are those problems here? So when there is a large code, okay, it's very difficult to maintain. Okay, there is no code maintainability here. So it's very difficult to understand and maintain the code. This procedural programming, we will be say it as a POP, procedural oriented programming, and we are using object oriented programming. Okay, what is the first difficulty here? When it is a large code, then the code is difficult to maintain. Okay, and second is nothing but poor code reusability. Means, so whenever you want to reuse the code, it's bit complicated. Okay, it's very poor to reuse again and again. No, I have a specific task I want to utilize many times, like 100 times. It's bit complicated here. Means reusability is very less here. Okay, and when it comes to POP, that is procedural oriented programming, there is a lack of data security. So we don't have a data security. So whenever you are storing one particular data, the data should be hidden. It should not be visible to everyone. That cannot be possible in procedural oriented programming. Of course it is possible, but there is no that much security. But when you come with the oops concept, oops will provide the solution for these problems. Oops having better structure. Okay, so maintainability will be more easier here, and better security is there. So the concept of encapsulation will provide more security to the data here, and it's very easier to maintain. Okay, so everything is present in objects itself, so it's very easy to maintain the code also. Even large code will be taken and stored in one object, and you can reuse it again and again. Okay, and it is very easy to maintain also. This is why oops is introduced. Let us discuss about the core building blocks of oops, that is class and object. Okay, before understanding about class, first of all let us understand about object. So if we understand about object, then it is very easier to get a clarity on class. So what is an object? An object is a real world entity which is present in the real world. What do you mean by real world entity? In the real world, whatever present, that is nothing but it's an object. So for an example, human is an object. Okay, so when it comes to Java, object means it's a real world entity. Okay, so real world entity means here everything will come: humans, and then pen, laptop, marker, car, bike, everything. Everything which is present in the real world, we will consider it as a one object. Okay, so we understood that what is an object. Object is a real world entity. What does the object contain? Objects have properties, states, and behaviors. Objects will have states and behaviors. Okay, what do you mean by state and what do you mean by behavior? If I suppose I am taking one real world example, that is human. So what are the human is an object now. What are the states of a human? Means about his data. The datas are nothing but his states or properties of a particular object. Okay, so you can think that data, states as a data. What are the human data? Name, age, gender. So these are all comes under the states. Okay, so what are the behaviors of a human? Human can walk, human can run, human can do a task, human can do gym. Okay, so human will do yoga. Okay, so these are all nothing but the a human behavior, right? Human walking is one behavior, running, task, gym. So it means I can consider these as an action. Okay, if you take pen, what are the states and behaviors here? A pen will have color. Okay, a pen will have some price. A pen will have a brand. These are all comes under the states. What about behaviors of a pen? Pen used for writing. Okay, pen. What are the other behaviors of pen? Pen is used for playing. So you can play in the childhood days and all. If you see, we will be playing with the pens also. Okay, pen fight and all will be there, right? So these are all behaviors of pen. What about laptop? Laptop has states. What are the states? Laptop has some color, laptop has some price, laptop has some brand, and laptop has keys, number of lights present. So these are all comes under the data. Okay, so what are the behaviors of a laptop here? So laptop is used to perform a task. We can play games, we can do editings, we can learn, we can teach. So like that, marker will have one state and behavior, car will have state and behavior, bike will have state and behavior. These are all nothing but the states and behaviors of an object. Okay, so I hope you guys got a clarity on object. Now we need to understand concept called what is class. Okay, a class is a blueprint of object or template of object. So what do you mean by blueprint or template here? So let me take an example to understand about blueprint or template. Let us assume that we are in a construction field. We need to build a house. House is an object, right? Correct. House is an object. So everything present in the real world is nothing but an object. Now house will have states and behaviors. Okay, we know about the object here. Now let us understand blueprint. So I need to construct one house. What we will do, we will be having a plan. Okay, a blueprint will be there. In that blueprint, I will be creating like here in this particular place, bedroom should be there. In this particular place, uh, washroom should be there. In this particular place, a kitchen should be there. So everything will be decided in a single paper. Okay, that is blueprint. And if you see, based on that sheet, based on that paper or based on that blueprint, they'll build the house and the house will be same as it is. Okay, here also same thing. A class is a blueprint of an object. So if you need to create an object, first of all you need a blueprint. If you have blueprint, then as it is the object will be created in the real world. Okay, here object creation will happen in the memory. In real world, object will be creation on the real time. Okay, here object means you can imagine it as a one memory and each it will have both states and behavior. Okay, now object is having states and behavior. Then what does the class have? Even the class will also have the states and behaviors as a variables and methods. Okay, so to create a class, we will be using a keyword called class. Okay, I need to create a car. So first what I will do, I'll create the blueprint of a car. So what does car will be there? Car will be having uh, different data. So that is states and behaviors. So what are the state here? Car will have an ID. So that is the number plate. And car will have one name. And car will have some price. So blah blah blah. Many will be things there. Behaviors. Behaviors are nothing but the methods. Public void start. So we already discussed about the methods and all. So please go through that video once. Okay. So car is having ID name as it states and car is going to start. So you can give some printing statement also. Car have states and car is having one behavior. Okay, so now the blueprint is ready. Okay, this is the blueprint. So now what you need to do, you need to create an object by using this blueprint. So by using one blueprint, we can create multiple cars right in the real world. Think everything in a real world. So I need to build a car. I need to create a car. So what I will do first, I will be having one plan. So I have drawn the plan here. It will have this much price, this is the name, and start method will have some operation. So when it is starting, something will be there. So everything will be written in one sheet. So the sheet is there now. So what is the next thing? Take the materials and start creating the object. So here, to create an object means in Java, creation of object in Java is nothing but creating a memory inside a Java. Okay, so how can I create an object of a car? So blueprint by using. So whenever if you listen that creating an object means in your mind immediately you have to trigger one keyword called new. So how can you create an object by using a new keyword? And here you will provide the class name. So what is the class name? Car and parenthesis. Okay, there is separate concept is there understanding this. So as of now understand that creation of object means by using a new keyword we will create a car. So what it means here, what will happen now when you have created new car internally, a car object will be created in memory and it will be having one ID and it will be having one name. Okay, and it will be having one method also. So this is one car object we created. What if I want another car object? New car object. So now how many cars created? Two cars. You may ask, where is the car created? I am not able to see how it looks like internally. Let us understand now. Here I created a car class. I created an object for that car. So how can we create a car object? New and then class name parenthesis. So what will happen when I create a car? So whenever you use a new keyword, you will be used for creating object. Whenever you created a car object, internally, okay, a memory will be created and the memory will be having one address. Okay, so the address, let me take it as a some 111. So whenever you created a new car object, internally an object will be created, that is one memory will be created, and that memory will have something called 111 and it is going to be pointed to this object. Okay, and not only that, so once it created the memory, whatever the ID, name, and the method car method, so everything will be loaded inside this memory. Okay, so if I created a new car, so what will happen? A new object is going to be created and it will have some data. Okay, so first of all, it will be having some address. So remember one thing here, whenever you use new keyword and call the car, whenever you use a new keyword and use the class name car and parentheses, immediately internally a block of memory will be created and it will be having address. That address is going to be pointed to you. Okay, so if I created one more object, so what will happen? Internally one more memory will be created. It will be having one address, something called 333. Okay, we don't know the address name, but it will be having the address and that address will be mapped here. Okay, so if I create 10 cars, 10 memories will be created. Each object is independent. Car is separate, this car is separate, this car is separate. Okay, so it is storing the address. Now I want to assign some data for this car. ID, name and car. I want to assign some name for this 222 car. I want to name this 333 car. So how can you do? So it is returning one address, right? It is giving one address to you. So new car is having one address. Store that in one place. Which place? Okay. Now for suppose I'm giving you one value 10. Where you will store this 10? It is an integer, so I will be storing in a int variable. I'll be giving you one name. Where you will store this name string? Okay, let me take it as a Karthik. Where you will store this Karthik? You will store it in a string, correct? So like that, what it is returning? An object address it is returning. It means it is returning the entire object. So what type it is? It is returning the car type only, right? This car only, right? This is one car, this is one car, this is one car. So how can you store? You can store with the class name because it is returning car type. Car C is equals to new car of. So whenever you created one car object, it is going to return one address to you. So internally memory will be created. That address it will return. You can store it inside the car. Okay, it's an address, right? So it's a non-primitive type. All the class names are nothing but non-primitive types. Okay, we will be discussing more on non-primitive types from now onwards. So remember, non-primitive type means class names. Now, I want to access, so now when I have created a new car and I have provided ID, name and car. So I want to access the ID of a car. So how can you access? So first go inside this. So first take this address and go inside the block and take the ID. How can you do that? Now here I have created one car here. See, there is a one car is there here. A new memory will be created and this memory will have address. It is pointing to this car object. Okay, and it is stored inside the C variable. The address is stored inside the C variable. Okay, now inside the C, the car object address is there. Now I want to change the ID. So by default, here default values will be there, or else I need to call the car. Here the car I am not giving as a static method, I am giving as a non-static. We will discuss about static, non-static on the current session itself after few minutes. Okay, how you will call the ID? C. So first take the address, get inside. Dot means get inside. C dot ID equals to something 10. So then I want to get the name here. I want to change the value of name. C dot ID equals to. So I'll give the car name as Bugatti. C dot car. So this is a method, right? So I can call the method. So C dot car. So C means get inside this object and call the car. So when I call the car, so car is started is going to be printed. Okay, the method is a static method, non-static method. Let us discuss about static or non-static also now. So while if you understood static and non-static, you'll get a complete clarity on class and objects, and we will do some programs also based on this. Now we completed class and object. We will be discussing more on class and object once we started static versus non-static. Here if you see real world modeling. Real world modeling means so how an object will be performed in the real world. Okay. This as we know that OOPS is powerful because it maps software design to real world thinking. Right. So what is the real world entities are they and how the OOPS is going to think in the programmatical way. So for that what I will do, I'll create a table. Okay, in real world persons and properties will be the actions, blueprint, this type of data. So these will be represented in OOPS as a person. It will be considered as an object. So just now we understood that object concept. So we have seen here. So a person, everything present in the real world is nothing but an object and all. So properties are nothing but the variable. So while discussing class, we got a clarity on that. Next is actions. Actions are nothing but methods. So that are the behaviors. Actions, you can say behaviors. So a particular person behavior means, so that behavior we will be consider it as a methods. And blueprint, so it's a class. So just now we discussed about the class and all. Okay, so this will makes us the large systems easier to understand, design and maintain. Okay, whenever big systems are there, so big projects you are doing, so these oops will help us to understand very easily and to design the project very easily, and maintainability will be more flexible here. Next, let us understand how an oops program works internally. Okay, so here in oops, first the classes are defined. Okay, and the objects created from the classes. So just now we discussed about these and all. So created from classes. So first classes will be defined, and based on that classes we are going to create the objects, and each and every object is different from another object. So means each object is independent. So it means objects stores their own data, and we can with the help of objects we can communicate with each other. Okay, generally oops works internally like this. Classes will be defined first, objects will be created from the classes, and objects store their own data. Communication will be happen between the objects using the method calls. Okay, so we have discussed this also. If you observe, we are having car we are calling, and from one object you can call another object, making relationship between the objects. Okay, those are nothing but object communication. We will be seeing more on the relationships part. Entirely the system works as a network of interacting objects. Okay, finally I need to tell one thing here. Each object is responsible for its own behavior. There is no relation between multiple objects as of now. Okay, so if you create relation also, each object will have their own data, and because of relation some additional data will come. Okay, so it will have, each object is having own behavior and own data will be there. Next is nothing but oops and the software design. Okay, oops is not just about the syntax or keywords and all, it is a design philosophy. Okay, let me explain here in the word. Good oops design focuses on clear responsibility for each object, minimal dependency between the objects, and realistic representation of business logics. Okay, that's why the oops is widely used in enterprise applications, web frameworks, microservices, and then game development and mobile apps and all. Let me write down that points so that you will get a complete clarity on this. Here, each and every object will be having a clear responsibility. Okay, and when you are having some lakhs of objects, there will be minimal dependency between the multiple objects. And if we are writing any logic, each and every logic will be represented as a real world. So whenever it is represented in real world, it will be an interesting topic, right? So account is there. Okay, I am depositing some amount in the bank account. So what you will do, first you will create an object. In the object you will be adding some amount, so everything will be realistic data. Okay, everything in the real world we will consider. Okay, so this will help us to create enterprise applications, web frameworks, microservices architecture, and for the game development, mobile apps. So we can do a lot here. Okay, so this is what the oops and the software design. So whenever you are designing one software, so this is how the oops is going to help us. Next, let us understand something called wrapper classes. Okay, so what is this wrapper classes? Class Wrapping means what? Packaging or boxing. Okay, boxing the classes.
We are
You can
using it
imagine
like
wrapper
that.
classes. So first, what is wrapper classes? Let us understand. To understand what is wrapper classes, we need to know one point here, that is Java is a purely object oriented programming language. Means everything present in the Java will be object oriented only, except for primitive type data. What are the primitive type datas? Int, byte, float, short, long, float, double, boolean, char. So these are all what? Primitive types of data. When you can say Java is 100% object oriented programming language, when Java is completely based on objects. Now for using data int, we don't need to create the data. So int means number, int to long means number, float means zero point 0.5 values. So these are all not objects, these are all keywords, and we are used to store some primitive type data, numbers, string, numbers, values, right? So, but to make Java as a 100% object oriented programming, wrapper classes will come into picture. So, wrapper classes in Java are special classes that can convert primitive types into non-primitive types. Okay, so now the Java is having 8 primitive types data, right? Each and every primitive type data has converted into an object. Okay, that is as a non-primitive type. Int primitive type is converted as integer as a non-primitive type. So that is nothing but here object. Okay, then we are having something called byte. Byte converted to a class called byte class. Then short is a primitive type and capital S will be the short is an object type. And long is a primitive type. Long is a class. Okay, each and every primitive is converted into a non-primitive, that is object. So float is converted as a float and double is converted as double, and boolean is converted to an object class called boolean, and char is converted to a class called character class. Okay, so these are all the 8 primitive types, and these are all 8 primitive types converted to non-primitive types here. Okay, why we are using these wrapper classes, why we are converting it to non-primitive type, int to integer, byte to byte, short to short. Why? Because Java is not purely object-oriented programming language because of primitive type data. If we want to make the Java as a 100% object-oriented programming language, then we have to use the wrapper classes instead of int, byte, short and all. Use the non-primitive type objects here. Why wrapper classes here? Some Java features will work only with the objects, not with the primitive types of data. Okay, so what are those? Collection, generics, frameworks like if you see Spring, Hibernate and all. So majorly it will be using the objects itself. And not only that, for making Java as a purely object oriented programming, we are using the wrapper classes here. So in wrapper classes, we are having a concept called Autoboxing and auto unboxing. Okay, so converting primitive to wrapper object is called Autoboxing. Okay, what do you mean by auto unboxing? It's quite opposite, alternative. So converting wrapper object to primitive. So this is called auto unboxing. Okay, so let me show one example for this. So if I am having int a is equals to 10, I'll be storing it as a integer object is equals to a. Okay, you can store like this. So what it will happen, Autoboxing internally, it will be creating one new integer object and the data will be stored here. Okay, so let me show with an example. So for understanding wrapper classes, let me create a new Java project. Okay, so understanding wrapper classes. Okay, so I'm opening the perspective here and let me delete the module. We are not understanding module, we are understanding classes and objects as of now. Okay, so let me create a class here and package name I'll give it as a com.org and class name let me take it as a test1. So I'll be having a main method here. What we understood here, autoboxing means so converting a primitive to a non-primitive type or a wrapper object is known as autoboxing. So it means this is the primitive type data and I'm trying to convert it into a non-primitive type. So how can we convert? So simple, integer object is equals to a. That's it. If you pass a internally, it will auto box it. Internally, how it will be? So new integer of 10 internally. So this boxing will be happen internally. That is automatically a. So when I print here obj, I'll be getting the value 10 here. This is what auto boxing. Auto unboxing means I was teaching on integer. You guys try for remaining primitive types converting to non-primitive types. Due to video duration, I was doing with one object. It's one primitive type only. Now converting non-primitive to primitive. So there is a integer is equals to new integer of some 100. Okay, it is showing like this, but ignore it. These are all some bit warnings only, not an issue. Okay, I want to convert this non-primitive type into a primitive type. That is what auto unboxing. So int b is equals to, I will take it as I. This is what auto unboxing. So whenever you print the b here, so what is inside I? 100 will be printed now. Okay, we will understand how the 100 is printing, how the 10 is printing and all. Once we understand in-depth knowledge of object, we will get a clarity. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity on this auto boxing and auto unboxing. Okay, and these classes will have some helpful methods. Those methods we will see later. Let us understand the concept of pillars of OOPS. Okay, there are four pillars of OOPS. One is encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction. Before understanding these four pillars of OOPS, first of all, we have to understand a concept called static and non-static. Okay, so what is a static and what is a non-static? So let us understand this. So what do you mean by static members? Okay, so here members means it will come a block. Okay, static block you can say as a static variables or static methods. So as of now you can consider that members means variables. Okay, including blocks also generally. So but as of now we will discuss with variables and methods. Once we got a clarity on this, we can go with the blocks also. So first of all, main thing you have to know about static members is nothing but static members are the class members. So we understood what is a class here. Okay, so it's a blueprint of a class we understood. So static members are class members means these whatever you are creating static variables or static methods, everything will be belongs to the class. Okay, so how many class will be there? So class member means okay, one single class, one time only we can create a class. If we want, we can create another class. but that will be a different class, different blueprint. Each time whenever you are creating a class, it will be each time a different blueprints we are creating. Okay, so not the same class we are creating, we will be creating a different class only, right? So you can't create class car. So like this, one more class car you can't create. Okay, because it will throw exception. Correct. So multiple blueprints you can't create same way, but multiple objects you can create with different data. Okay, so a single class only we can create here. Okay, so static members will be having a single memory only. Remember this point. Okay, so first of all, what is static here? I forgot to tell that. So first of all, static is a keyword. So and these members are the class members. So only one copy will be created. Remember this. Okay, whenever you see static, so that static belongs to the class member. Okay, and only one copy of memory is going to be created. Okay, so static members you can call in three ways. Okay, so one, using class name. Okay, if you are okay, so if if the variable is present in another class, or if the method is present in another class, so majorly we will use class name. And you can call directly with the name. Here name means, so it's a variable name or method name. So when you have to call, when it is within a class. And there is another way is a you can call with the object reference. So about object reference, just now we have discussed. So while understanding object, so whenever an object created, you will get the object address. That is nothing but the object reference. Okay, so you can call using the object reference also, but it is not recommended. Okay, so I have opened the Eclipse here, and what I will do, so I need to create a variable. Okay, so static variables will be created inside the class, outside the methods. You can't create inside the method. Remember? So I'll create a static int a. Okay, so here I'll create a main method. So how can I access this static variable? Class. So within a class, if it is there, I can call now directly a. So a is equals to some 100 I'll give, and system.out.println of a. So what will be the output as we know? So we have taken static variable a, and a value directly I have called. What if my main method is having one integer a? In main method I am taking integer a equals to 20. Okay, so in main method there is one local variable a value 100 I changed. So which value will be changed? Either static variable or local variable. Here it will consider as a local variable. See, 100 only printing. What if I want to print the static variable? See, remember, whenever you are using a variable, so first preference go to the local block. Does we have, so whenever you have given a equals to 100, does we have a declaration for int a? Okay, so does we have the declaration for a? Yes, obviously. So locally it will take. So, but I don't want to tell, hey, don't take this locally. Take the class member a. So class member a, that is static a, right? So how can you take? By using class name demo1 dot a. So now when I run this, now I will get 50. So if I have given directly now a, so what will happen? It will print 100. Okay, so when I'm calling with class name static member, it is calling. Hope you guys understood these 2 points now, and hope you understood why we are using class name as a recommended one. And you can call using the object reference, which is not recommended. Okay, so if I want to access this demo 1a, so I can create multiple objects and also I can access. So while creating objects, we understood that each and every object will have its own data. Okay, so but static member is not a object member, static member is a class member. So only one block of memory will be created, I said, right? Okay, so this point there is only one copy of memory
40.
created. So when I print here d3.a, so what should be the value? What is having d3a here? 30, right? But static is having a single copy of memory. Due to that, what will happen? So if you created n number of object also, it will not create multiple memories. Only a single memory will be replaced. Now you are calling d1.a. So 50 will be replaced with 10. Next, what is the next updated? d2.a. Single memory is a. It will be replaced with 20. Next, d3.a. It will be replaced with 30. Okay, so d4.a. So single memory only. It will replace with 40. When it is a non-static, at that time it is different. Whenever you are calling that, each object will have its own data. Okay, now it's a static, a single memory created. So the latest updated value you are going to get. If you are calling with any of the reference, only one memory is there. So when you call d3.a also, the value latest updated data you are going to get. See, 40 only getting when you are calling using d3.a. So at these situations you may get some confusions when we are creating multiple objects, and when I am trying to access, see the latest updated only I need to take. So if I am trying to take the object 3, then it's a mistake. Hope you guys got a clarity on this third point. So that's why it is not recommended. It's a bit confusing part. Correct. So it's better you can call your static members by using the class name.
Yeah.
So whenever you haven't given any value for your static members, that is I'm talking about the variables here. Okay, so then the default values will be added during the class loading. So what is a class loading? So whenever you run your code, so what it should do, your class file need to be uploaded to your RAM and then it will start running. While uploading your class file, so it will add the default values for your static members, static variables.
So
Okay,
first,
so whenever I'm calling demo1.s, what will happen? String default value, because I didn't assign. But when it comes to local variable, if you didn't assign, so then it will be compile time error. But when it comes to static variables, default value assigned, so s will become null. So if I have taken, can I take static boolean something flag? I'm not mentioning what is the default value for boolean. So it is nothing but false. So whenever I print that flag variable, okay, of course there is no local variable. I can, within the class it is there, I can call using flag. See, false. And static members you can call from one class to another class. Now first suppose there is a demo thing. Okay, string name equals to Karthik I'm calling. So in my main method I can call demo2 dot, so what is the static variable is name, right? So demo2 class name and variable name. So whenever I call, I'll get the name. So what's the name here? Karthik is the name. So let us run this. See, Karthik. And you can change that name also. So demo2 dot name. So anywhere if you change, it's one copy of memory. From anywhere you change, it will change, and it's a constant like that you can use. Okay, so now I'll change the name as Chandru. Okay, so now if I print, so updated value it is going to print. Okay, and if you see, they are using static here. Why? Because so the JVM can call directly with its name. Okay, when it is trying to call also, it's public only, so it will call with the class name internally. So however the class file will be uploaded, right, to the JVM will take the class name, and using that it will call the main method. That's why main method has been given as static. let us understand non-static members. Okay, here also non-static members means we are discussing about non-static variables and non-static methods. Okay, so we will discuss about blocks also. Non-static members or object members. So static members are class members. These are all object members. So class can be created at once. So only one copy of memory is there. So but when it comes to non-static members, uh, these having its own data. So multiple objects will be created. So multiple memories will be created here. So whenever you create an object, each memory will be created. It's not like static. Static means constant, only one copy. So you create n number of objects or you can call any place, only one memory only it is going to replace again and again. Okay, but when it comes to here, memory will be allocated each time whenever you create the object. Okay, so hope you guys got a clarity on this particular part, and we will discuss about these also. Okay, I'll give you some examples. So these non-static members can be accessed in two ways. Using object reference you can call, or directly also you can call. Okay. Inside a non-static member you can call the non-static member as a directly. Okay, I will explain. So let us see that. Okay, so how can we create a static variable? By using a static keyword. So we will create a static variable. Non-static means we will not use static keyword. So now this int a becomes the object member. So whenever you create an object, each memory will be created for this. So now main method is a static member. So when it is a static member, you need to call this by using an object reference only. So you need to create an object. Okay, so directly when it is a non-static member, it is not a non-static member. So if you want to access this, you need to create an object. So how can we create an object? New t1. Okay, so and I can assign here as a t1. T1 means test1. Now I can print the t1.a. Even for non-static variables, while the object loading process is happens, so at that time data will be injected, default values injected. So what do you mean by object loading? So let me write that point here. Loading. Here it's class loading. So class will be wrote one time whenever you are running your application, but object will be loaded each and every time you create an object. See, whenever you created new t1, so internally what will happen? A memory block will be created. If I created again new t1, a new memory will be created. So we discussed already about this, correct? Okay, so when I print this, I'll show that also here. So when I print, it will print 0. So why? Because default value when it is creating at that time it's created. Now each object will have its own memory, right? So that we have seen in the test one. Okay, so this is wrapper classes, but here let us see one example. So now t1 dot a is equals to I am giving 20. See, whenever you created one object, so your non-static member have created one memory inside your object. Okay, I am creating t1 object 2. So new t1 of. Okay, so whenever you created t1, so at that time one memory created, and inside that memory a value is assigned as 20. So now again I created one more object. Inside that object 2 dot a, so a memory will be created and that value is 30. And when I print object 2 dot a, so here the object 1a, so that is nothing but object 1, inside I have a value changed to 20. So one memory created for this a in the object, and that value is 20. In the same thing, inside this object, that means one memory created, inside that a value is 30. So each and every object is having its own data. So each and every object creation each and every memory will be created. So A will be created multiple times memories. So when I run this, see 20 and 30. 20 and 30. So object 2. So if you want, you can create n number of objects. Similar way, you can call this in multiple places also. Like you can create a different class T2 and from there also you can call this. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity on non-static. And here I forgot to explain one thing that is directly inside a non-static member. See, in static member is a class member, so class member will be called directly, and we need to access this means it's a non-static member. So non-static cannot be accessed directly inside static. So that's why we created the objects. Okay, what if I am having one method public void? Non-static methods will be created without static keyword. I am having a method called m1 and here I want to print the a. So I'll just give a. Okay, so how can you call this non-static member? Okay, you can directly call non-static inside that non-static you can call directly. But how can you call this m1? If you're calling from a static, definitely you will be calling using its object reference only, right? So the same object reference will be added here. So when I call object1 dot m1, so using this object1 reference, it is calling m1. So and the same thing will be applicable here. Same object only we are using, right? So what is that object 1 dot m1 means? Internally object 1 dot a here. So what is that object 1 dot a here? So it's 20. So here the line, this line 20, 20 and then 30 will be printed. 20, 20, 30. Hope you guys got a clarity on this. Remember, whenever you're calling non-static, you will call with a reference. Okay, so the same reference will be applicable to the non-static members present inside that particular method. Right? This is about static members and non-static members. And there is something called static block and non-static block. One point I need to tell here. Static blocks will be executed during class loading. So how many times the static block is going to execute? Only once. So when it comes to non-static blocks will be executed during object loading. Okay, so how many times the static block is going to execute? Only one time. How many times this is going to execute? Many times, because object can be created many times. For suppose I want to create a static block. Static blocks can be created inside the class, outside the method, and even non-static blocks also created in the same manner. So let me take a new class called T2. Okay, and I need to create a static block, means just simply static. So you can just print static block executed. Okay, so in the same manner I'll create a non-static block. Non-static block can be created without any keyword. Okay, so non-static block executed. Okay, so I am be creating one main method. So when the static block will be executed whenever class is loading. So when I run this file, definitely class file will be loaded, so this will be executed. So when this will be executed whenever object loading. So do we have any object loading here? No. Main executes. Okay, so first main will be executed or static block will be executed. So the order is not matter here. Always like first a static is there, next non-static, next main is there. So first it should execute, later this one, later this one. Not like that. The order is first class loading will happen. So during the class loading, first this will be executed. After that, Main method will be called internally. So after calling, this will be executed. So what about this? We didn't created any object. So object loading is not happen. It will never be called now. See, static block executed, main executed. Now what I will do, I'll just remove this and I'll add in the down. So now what will happen? Now also same. During the class loading, first static block will be executed and later main method called main executed. So 1 and then 2. So run this, static block executed, main executed. Correct? Now I will create one object here. So how can we create object? New keyword and the class name with parenthesis. So when I create like this, see, now at that time non-static block executed. Why? Because when you create using new keyword, object creation will happen, object loading will be happen. So your whenever your object loading is happening, during that time non-static block executed. Now I am creating some 3, 4, 5 objects. So 5 times your objects will be loaded. This is one object, it should load. This is one object, it should load. This is one object, it should load. So like that 5 times it should load the object. So 5 times this will be executed. What about this? Only once. So when I run, so first time class will be loaded, this will be executed. After that main called, main method executed, and so a number of times if you create objects, that number of times non-static block will execute. See, hope you guys got a clarity on static and non-static. Next one, constructor. Constructor is executed whenever you created the object. So let us see that a constructor is a special non-static method without the return type. Why we are using this and all we'll discuss. Okay, it doesn't have any return type, so it means it's a special non-static method. Means so non-static method will have access modifier, okay, and return type, and then name will be there. So these will be having in a non-static member, that is method, okay, and argument will be there optional. So but when it comes to here, access modifier and name will be there. Whenever you create a class, by default your compiler will create one constructor. That constructor name we'll call it as a default constructor. So how that constructor will be created here? So you can use the access modifier. So as of now we are discussing with public. Let me take it as a public and then your class name, okay, and then parenthesis. So this is how you can create a constructor. So whenever you create a class, this constructor will be created inside your class by default. It will not be visible. Now does T2 is having that constructor? Yes, of course, but it will not be visible because internally constructor will be created by the compiler. For T1 is there, for demo 1, for demo 2, for everything one default constructor will be created by the compiler whenever you run. So why these constructors are creating? First of all, why it is required? So we need to understand, whenever an object creation is happening, a constructor will be called. So how we will create an object? New and then class name. So this, if you observe here properly, new and then class name if you are giving, so this is nothing but you are calling the constructor, right? So method call, it's looks like a one method call, class name parenthesis and class name parenthesis, it's a block. Okay, so whenever you're creating a object, so by default you're calling a constructor here. So hope you guys got a clarity why we are giving the parenthesis here now. So what is the job of a constructor here, you have to know. So whenever you call a constructor, what will happen? Okay, so first what will happen means, first new keyword you use means one block of memory will be created internally whenever you call the constructor. So constructor will load your non-static members. So we understood about non-static members. So that is your variables, methods as well as blocks. Okay, so all the non-static members will be loaded first. Okay, once it is done, your non-static blocks will be executed. Once non-static block executed, later constructor return instructions will be executed. So these are the three major points you have to remember. So you just call class name and constructor. So internally this constructor perform three things. So load your non-static members, that is your variables, your non-static methods, your non-static blocks, everything. And after that internally non-static block. So when I use new T1, previously we have seen new T1 whenever I'm calling, object is creating and non-static block is also called. So that called by constructor, and whatever you have written inside the constructor, that logic will be executed. Let us see that once. So let me take here. So now I'll create a main method here, and I'm trying to create one object for this T3 class. So what I will do, new T3. Okay, so by default a constructor is created, so that's why whenever you call T3 off, so it is not showing any error if we don't have T3 also. But if I want, can I create that? Of course we can create public T3. See, we can create, and if you want you can write some printing statements also. Constructor executed. So let me run these out and you can see constructor executed. And what is the job here? If you are having any non-static members, that will be loaded, and later non-static blocks are going to be executed, right? Let me create a non-static block here. Executed. So first, which one will be executed? Whenever I create an object, constructor called here. So first constructor, it will not execute this. First what it will do? Load members. So I don't have members. So it will just load the non-static members as a block only. Is the block will be loaded, and it will execute this non-static member. So first execute the non-static block, later constructor return instructions executed. So first NSB executed, later constructor executed. So run this. See, non-static block, later constructor has been executed. I hope you guys got a clarity on constructor. Okay, and next, here one more important note point you have to remember, that so if I created one constructor, so it will not create one default constructor. So this constructor only we are going to call. Now we are not calling default constructor, we are calling our own created constructor. Okay, so this is very important point that you have to remember. So this is about constructor. Then types of constructor. So types of methods means predefined and user defined, and later when it comes to argument, no argument, and then parameterized, right? So here also no argument constructors are there, and parameterized constructors are there. Okay, so here there is something called constructor overloading is there, similar to method overloading. So in methods also we can perform method overloading, which will helps to overload the methods. Okay, so this is no argument constructor. So I want to create a parameterized method, sorry, constructor. So what I will do, I'll create a constructor with some parameter. Okay, see, the same name with different parameters means we will call it as a overloading. Okay, even for method also same, but when it comes to constructor we can say it as like when when a class is having more than one constructor, there is nothing but constructor overloading. See, more than one constructor is there, right? So what is the a value here? So local value, so you need to assign some data. Okay, when I will assign, whenever I'm calling this constructor. So what is the a value? That a value I'll be printing. See here, so I'm calling new T3. So this constructor will be executed after the non-static block execution. So if I call new t3 of some data 30 or 20. So now which constructor will be called? The constructor with one argument as an integer. So this will be called, a constructor will be called. So let me run this out. See, 20 is calling. So non-static block, however, whenever you create an object, constructor will execute non-static blocks. Later only inside the instruction will be executed. Right? Hope you guys got a clarity on this. Okay. So next we need to understand something called this keyword. Very important in your entire Java. That is for the oops. Very important for oops concept actually. Okay, this is a keyword used for referring the current object. So whatever your current object is there, for that reference it will be useful. So for example, I am having a class. So class called book. Let us take it as a class book. So class book will be having some ID. So class book will have some name. Let us take two datas. Okay, and I know about constructor, so I will create a constructor. So I am not giving chance to the construct compiler to create the object. Okay, so to create the constructor, so I created a main method here, and I am trying to call new book of, and let me store the reference in book variable. So let me print here book. So some address will be printed, however we know that. So whenever it is returning, that address will be printed. Now what is the current object reference? This is the book is the current object reference, right? See, so for this book what I will do, I'll give a name. Okay, so whenever I call book dot get name or book dot name, so I will be getting the name as a Harry Potter, correct? So book dot, I am not printing the address, I am just printing the name. So okay, let us print the book also. So first I am printing the book, later book name I am printing. Okay, Harry Potter. So I want to understand this keyword. This keyword means what? Referring the current object. And one more thing, this keyword can be used inside constructors and non-static members. Okay, of course constructor is also a non-static member. Okay, particularly I mentioned why, because majorly we will use in constructors. Okay, even in non-static members also you can give this keyword. First let us say with non-static member. Okay, I am just printing the this. Okay, so what is this here? This is nothing but this reference. So whatever book is having here in main method, the same data only printed here. See, same objects. Okay, so that is what current object reference. So what is my book current reference? This book. So what is having this book? So that address will be printed. So what is the name of the book? So I'll give it as a this dot name. This dot name means it's internally book dot name. What is this book dot name here? So Harry Potter. So let me comment these two here. So directly I'm printing my book name only. Always save it. See, Harry Potter. So what if I have created one more book, and this time for this B2 book name, what I will give, I'll give the name as Avengers book. Okay, so now when I call B2 dot my book, so first time in this line whenever you're calling book dot my book, so it is nothing but book reference with my book you're calling this dot name, that is nothing but current reference is this. So Harry Potter will be printed first time. Second time when it comes to here, it came to B2 dot name. So B2 dot my book. So what is the current object reference now? B2 is the current object reference. So B2 dot name, what is the B2 dot name here? Avengers. So let me run this. See, Harry Potter and Avengers. Hope you guys got a clarity on this. Okay. Let me take one class as an employee. So employee will have more data, right? Okay, so assume that there is a registration page. I need to enter all these details. Okay, so you will enter all the details and you are going to store it in one object. So you need to set the data. So from front end, one by one data you are getting, and multiple objects you need to create and you need to set the data. How you will set that? Simple. In this example, I have taken ID, name, age, gender, and mobile. So now in main method, I need to set the data. What I will do? I need to create 5 employee objects and I need to set the data. So how I will do? Employee is equals to new employee. So one employee created, e dot id is equals to 10, e dot name is equals to some, let me take my name Karthik, e dot some age is equals to some 200, e dot uh, then what, gender is equals to male, e dot mobile is equals to some long digit data. Okay, so like that I have taken, so one object I have created and I have added data. So now I need to create 5 objects and I need to add for the each object all the datas. So what I will do, I'll just copy it and I'll paste it, paste it, paste it, paste it. Okay, so this will be employee 1 and this will be employee 2 and this will be employee 3 and sorry, employee 3, and at last this will be employee 4. And here all our e's are there, so I need to change, each object will have each data, right? E1, E1, E1. So E1 ID is 20, then E1 employee 1 name, I'll take it as a Prasad. Okay, so remaining as it is. If I want, so and if you see here, he's having some 30, so let us take with 3 objects enough. Okay, because code readability is not much good, so I'll not follow this way manner also. I'll be modifying it. Okay, so let me take it as Venu and let me take 300 years and let me take it as double it. Okay, see, I need to create object and I need to insert, means each and every time I need to use the reference and I need to call its particular data. So then assign. So then call e dot name and then assign e dot age. So even for e1, e2, e3. So multiple objects if you're creating, it's difficult for us. So if I want, once if I created, everything will be easier. So if I want e1 dot name, so employee one name. So what is the employee one name here? It's Prasad, right? So when I run this, I'll get Prasad. Okay, so these and all we already studied. Each object is having each data and all. Okay, while creating objects itself, we learn. Now, creating object, later inserting data, it's bit complicated. What if while creating object itself, I'll insert the data? So let us see that also. So what I'll do, let me comment this as of now. Instead of creating each object, so first a default constructor will create. Okay, so a default constructor, so however compiler is creating, so due to a standard you can create, or you can directly create a parameterized constructor also. So I'm creating a overloaded constructor here, or let us take with employee only. So I am now telling that while creating the employee itself, assign the data. So while creating employee itself, I'll give id. Okay, I am going to give name and I am going to give age and I am going to give gender. So whenever you're creating object, so you're calling constructor, right? At the time itself pass all the data. So why you need to create later again? So readability will be less and also time waste process will be there. So while creating itself, if you did now, so directly you can insert the data. Okay, 10 objects if you created also, readability will be there. So understanding will be more easier. Okay, long mobile. Okay, so what I will do, so whatever id, so what id, For the current object id, whatever pass data I need to pass. So I can't give id equals to id. So if you give, as I told in the previous session, whenever you give a variable name, it will check in your local. So we are having local, it will take this id assigned to this id only. But what I required, the current object. So when I created new employee, this is my current object reference, right? This entire thing is current object reference I need to take. Whenever I create a new object, that new object will be the current object reference at the time. So for current object reference, I'll give this dot. Okay. So and then current object name is equals to, so whatever in the constructor calling you pass name, that name you're going to pass. This dot age is equals to age. So current object gender is equals to the gender passed in the constructor call. So you are taking the data from constructor argument and you are assigning to your current object. Same thing. A e.id, instead of that we are using this dot id, and this dot mobile is equals to mobile. If the variable names are different, at that time no need to worry. You can directly take your variable name. By default it will take from non-static member. We have observed that, right? While understanding static versus non-static, we have seen this. Okay, see, it is showing one error whenever I'm creating an employee. Why? Because whenever we create a constructor manually, our compiler will not create the constructor. Okay, so we are having a constructor with arguments. We don't have any constructor with no arguments. So whenever you're calling a constructor, you need to pass these details. So whenever I'm creating object, at that time I'll be injecting. So if I created one overloaded constructor, public employee like this, then the error will go. So it will call this constructor and the non-static members, all these members loading and then instructions whatever you have written. So these and all will be executed. But what I will do, I will use the constructor with arguments. The same data I can give here 10 and then I'll give name as Karthik and I'll give the age as 200 and I'll give mail and I'll give the mobile as something like this. See, instead of doing this much thing, I can just write it in one line. Okay, I need to create multiple objects, so simple. So let me take it as a, so if you change here, so whenever you're calling new employee, you're calling constructor id will be assigned 20 and 20 for which one you are assigning? Current object. Current object means this is the current object. For this it will be attached. Okay, so some 300 and let me modify. So if you observe here, see, for one employee object creation and insertion, these many things it's happening. Okay, we need to do, but here everything you have injected. Now if I print, I want to print e1 dot name. So what is the employee one name here? So employee one name is nothing but Prasad. Prasad we already injected to the current object. So if you call event dot name, so Prasad will be printed. Okay, this is about this keyword and about the constructor. Okay, so you can practice create multiple objects and adding multiple data here and calling the this keyword. So this is a keyword we understood. Next, something called this call statement. Okay, so from one constructor to another constructor, if I need to call, I can't call. So from this employee constructor I need to call this constructor. Okay, so employee called. So if we call new employee like this, so by default this will be called here and all this parameterized constructor is going to be called, correct? See, employee called. So but I need some situations whenever I call this employee with argument, I need to call a constructor with no argument. For suppose assume, So it means from inside a constructor, parameterized constructor, I need to call a no argument constructor, or there is a parameterized constructor, I need to call that. How can you call? Using this call statement, this call. Okay, and this call statement should always be the first line of your constructor. Okay, so whenever you call this, so by default it will call this employee. So whenever you create one object with parameterized constructor you are calling, first what it is doing, it will call your employee constructor, default constructor. If you are having parameterized, you will give the data here. For suppose I am having a constructor, overloaded constructor with having int a comma int a, let us take only one data. If you want multiple data, you can take this called. So whenever you want to call employee with no argument, you will call this call statement. This call statement can only be used inside the constructor only. Okay, I need to call this employee with int a. So what you will do, you will just pass 10. So whenever new employee object you are calling with parameter, first what it is doing, so employee of int a will be called in this line. So after that remaining data will be assigned. Even for object to creation, first it will call employee of a. So then after that injection, so data will be injected, and same thing here. First employee of a will be called and then data will be injected. So when I call new employee, just this will be called. Understood? And if you see here, I am calling here this of a. So that is 10. So in the first line only. So whenever you call employee also, what it will do, first it will call employee of a called, and later it is going to print. So run. So 3 times employee a called, then Prasada name I'm printing, then again this of 10. So employee of a, you can utilize this a variable also. You can, if you want, you can print that data, or you can utilize for some other reasons also. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity on this call statement. And if you are having n constructors, you need to use n minus 1 this call statements. Okay, so I am having 3 constructors, you have to use only 2 this call statements. If I use here also this of, so what will happen? See, recursion will be happen here, so it should not happen. Constructor recursion is not there. Okay, so next one is nothing but encapsulation. Encapsulation is nothing but wrapping of data members and member functions in a single entity is called encapsulation. So first suppose if you see in your bag, so all the members will be added. So books, pens and all everything will be combined in one place. Okay, same manner encapsulation also. Your variables and methods will be encapsulated in one single entity, that is class. What is the advantage of encapsulation? So advantage of encapsulation is nothing but data hiding. So it will hide the data. So whatever your data is there, it will be hidden for the user. So he can't see that ID. So but how can he get the data and modify the data? Through getters and setter methods. Let us discuss that. So first of all, encapsulation is nothing but wrapping of data members and member functions in a single unit is called encapsulation. Okay, so we are going to combine the data members and member functions in a single entity. Okay, entity is nothing but class. So we know that data members means variables, member functions means methods. In a single entity is nothing but class. Okay, in a class, variables and methods combinedly we will tell it as an encapsulation. Okay, but however we are creating, so it means everything is encapsulated means not. if variable is not there, there is no use of method. If method is not there, there is no use of variable. That is what members and member functions both combined is there. It's an encapsulation. Okay, so we will see with the examples also. What is the use here? Data hiding. So how can we hide the data? By making the data members as private. Okay, so I'll make the variables as a private, so then the variables can't be seen outside. So let me give you knowledge about access modifiers. Okay, so there are four access modifiers, right? Public, private, protected, and default. Okay, these access modifiers you can use for variables, you can use for methods, correct, and you can use for constructor also. Okay, so first of all, what is this public? So whenever you use this public modifier, it means you can access in entire project anywhere you can access. Private access modifiers. Private access modifiers means you can access within the class. So whenever you make a variable or method as a private, within that particular class you can access. From other class you can't access the private member. Access within the class. Okay, and protected is nothing but, so whenever you have a relation, so access which have inheritance relation. So whenever inheritance we are discussing, at that time we will see about this. Okay, child class it is going to accept, that we will see. Default means what? If you are not giving any access modifier, it will be a default access modifier. So this will be access within the package. So you will be creating package, right? So within that package access will be there. So now private data members we are making, so it access will be only within the class, so outsiders can't see the data. So that is why here data hiding is the advantage of encapsulation. Okay, so let us create one package here. Okay, so what I will do, private int id. So student details cannot be given to everyone right directly, so that's why I'm making it as a private id and private string name. So if you are giving private, you can access within this class. Okay, you can create student object and you can call student id and name and all you can call here and you can access, correct? So because that is what private members, right? So syso s dot name, I can print this, I can change this name, I can do whatever with this variable within this class. And here I am trying to call student object. I am creating student object, and whenever I am call student dot, see I don't have a name, it is showing. Do we have the name here? It is not showing. Data has hidden. Name it is not showing. Even id will not show because private data hidden here. So but I need to add the name with some validation and I need to fetch this name. Okay, so how can I do that? For that, public method and public, through public methods we can access this. Means inside this class I can access, right? What I will do, I'll create a public method void. So we will be telling something called setter and getter method. Setter method is nothing but to set the data. Getter method is nothing but to get the data. So when I have given public void set student or set name, right? So we are setting the name, right? Set name. So when you want to set the name, you need to provide the name, right? What is the name here? So that user decide. And if you have any conditions, any authentication code and all, you can write here. Okay, as of now I am not writing any code, so I will use it as a set name of string name. So the current name whatever is there, for that user given name I will be adding. So whenever user created an object, he will call using this. So s dot set name. So he will pass the name, right? For that object, I'll assign the name. So he can't access directly, but indirect access we are providing. Why we are providing? So here, if we are having any data like security, for security purpose, we are doing like this. If you are having any validation, you can validate here and you can assign. Okay, if you are having age, directly if you are providing, if you are not making private and int age, if you are given, directly if you are providing, there is no validation. Directly you can pass -10, -15 also. But set age if you are making, if you made private and set age, there you can create one condition if age is greater than or less than like that. So now if you see, we can access the data student dot set name. I can set the name. So what I'll take it as a Karthik. But I can't get the name right. So only set. You set the value for the name. So for this object, the name has been set as Karthik. It is like student dot name equals to Karthik. So dot name equals to the name we passed. Okay, so but I want to fetch the data. So how we will fetch? For that getter method is there. So what we are doing, get name. So for getting name, do we need any parameter? No, for setting we need data. So that's why we have taken. For getting, user is going to get. What user is going to get? A string type of data. Correct? So return. So what we are returning? This dot name. So current name. So it's a non-static method. Okay, inside non-static you can call it directly without this keyword. Correct. Why I'm calling here this? Because local variable name and a non-static variable name both are same. That's why I'm calling using like this. And even for id also I want to make means public void. First let me create a set id. So id user needs to set int id. This dot id is equals to id and this dot name is equals to name. Oh, sorry, I am not adding any name, right? Only ID I am setting. Now, public user wants to get the ID. ID is of what? Integer type. Get ID. Okay, so return ID. Okay, so this is how we will make the private members and we'll access through getter and setter methods. So this is the standard. You can give any name also, you can access this, but standard is set name. Okay, we are setting the name. Get name. Okay, whenever I call, I'll get the name. See, now from main student, I can call student dot get name. Okay, whenever you call get name, so what it is returning? Current object name. So what is the current object name you saved as a Karthik? See, Karthik we are getting. And if I am not setting the data, I am just trying to fetch the data. Okay, just get the name. So the current object is having name, nothing here. We didn't set any name, so it will be null, right? Okay, so this is how the data security has been provided. So the main object will main thing will not be visible to the user. Okay, so end user, so he don't know what is the variable he is using, what is the data to do. So in the setter security, so you can add some implementations like conditions here and you can validate also. After that you can set the data. And we are deciding here in the student class, we are deciding whether I need to provide a setter or a getter. Okay, so first suppose if you see a Gmail application and all, you can change the password but you can't view the password. Means they change the password, only setter is allowed, there is no getter, you can't get the password. If you want you can rechange it. Correct. So like that you can just only change it, you can't see it. So only setter is implemented, getter is not implemented. Like that you can take it as an imagine. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity on the concept of encapsulation. And one more thing here, when you're having a private members, you need to generate getter and setter. You can, if you are writing, yes, of course we will write private members getter setter method we will create, because data security, data hiding is there. Okay, but I can't do this each and every class, right? So if I'm having 10 variables, 10 times I can't sit and write getter, set name, like that. So now private ID age is there. So again I need to create setter method and getter method. Okay, we know what is setter method means, accept the argument. Getter method means return the data. So instead of writing like this, we can take the help of ID. So nowadays IDs helps a lot. If you go to source and if you see here generate getters and setters, select generate getters and setters. You need getter method, setter method for age, ID, name. So generate. See, get ID, get set ID, get name, set name, get age, set age. So now we are making. So now if you see here, I have thought one point here now. Data members and member functions in a single entity means if data member is not there, member function is not there, member function is not there, data member is not there. Correct. So private variables are there and I'm not creating any public method. Is there any use of this variable? No. I'm creating only methods. I'm not creating variables. Again compile time errors. No use. Okay, so that is what wrapping up of data members and member functions in a single entity is known as encapsulation. Okay, in future class we will not create main method and all here. Separately we will create and from there we are going to call it, because we will make encapsulated classes for data security purposes. Okay, so hope you guys got a clarity on this. So when we will do this, whenever a blueprint you need to create, student blueprint, car blueprint, and then watch, and then laptop. So like that blueprints whenever you're creating, at that time we will use encapsulated classes. Next, let us understand the concept of inheritance. Inheritance is an OOPS concept where one class acquires the properties of another class. Inheritance helps us to create relation between classes. What type of relation here? Parent and child relation. Okay, so we can acquire the properties of parent, okay, inside child. Okay, so that is what parent and child relation, right? If parent having some property, there is some land in real world, so the land will be again will be acquired to the child only, right, in future. Okay, the same thing here also it has been applicable. Okay, so generally we have a class A like this, it is there, correct? So if I am giving here int A is equals to 10. So how many variables are there here in this int A? So we are having in this class only one variable is available. Okay, so totally one variable. Okay, so how many variables are there in this class? So only one variable, that is b equals to 20. So I need to make a relation between class A and class B. Let us take that instead of A, B, let me take it as a parent and child. Okay, so whenever I have taken parent and child, we need to make a relation between these two classes. No, just the class name as parent is there. Here the just the class name as child is there. So I want to make a relationship means we need to use the concept of inheritance. In inheritance, okay, we are having something called extends keyword, which will help us to make a relation between parent and child. Okay, child require the properties of parent. So child is going to use extends with parent. So child is extended with parent now. Means child is acquiring all the properties of parent. So now in parent class, how many variables are there? Only one. But when it comes to child, how many variables are there? So we are having two. One is int b equals to 20. one more is nothing but which is acquired from parent. So both will be acquired here. So in child we are having both int a and int b. Okay, so in parent how many variables are there? One. But when it comes to child we are having two. Why? Because child is acquired the properties of parent. So what is the advantage of this? So the code reusability. If we are having a method present in parent, if you give extents of parent, the methods will also be included here, right? Code reusable at that scenarios, code reusability will be more. So and does everything will be inherited here? So if I have given extends parent, so does everything present inside the parent will be inherited? No, actually everything will be inherited except a few members. So the private members are never inherited. Okay, so if you have created one private int a or private method, that private method will not be inherited to your child. Okay, so and then constructors and blocks, static and non-static blocks are there, right? So will not be inherited. Okay, so your constructors and static blocks or non-static blocks are definitely not going to be inherited. Apart from that, everything. So if you create a final constant, static members, non-static members, so whatever you create, everything will be inherited. So except private members, constructors and blocks. Okay, simply if you want to say static members allowed, non-static members allowed, that's it. So private is not allowed, constructor blocks and all additional data, so these and all will not be allowed. Okay, so this is what parent and child relationship. So we will create some classes and we will understand this. Okay, first let me create a class and let us understand. Okay, so I have created a class called main1. Here what I will do, I'll create a class. You can create separate classes and you can merge. So I'll do it in a single file. There is a class called parent. Okay, so always the public class is going to execute. So in the starting days of Java concepts, we understood this, right? So I'm creating a variable that is class parent I have created, and I'm trying to static int a. Okay, you can take static variable, non-static variable, anything. So let us take it as a non-static because majorly we will be using objects. So let us try to take objects only. So child. Okay, so child is having int b is equals to 20. So currently how many objects are there in child? One object. So how many variables are there? One data. So when it comes to here also one data. Now in the main class, let me create a main method and new parent and new child. Okay, so now I'm printing parent dot. So it is showing a. So then child dot b, it is showing child dot b. So because inside child we are having child b object reference, in parent we are having a reference. Okay, so does we have the child is having a? No, if you try to give, it will show error. See, error, a cannot be resolved as a field, it's an error. So now there is no relation. Once if you make a relation by using extends keyword, extends parent, so then child is containing two variables. So now see, the error is not there. Child is having two variables, that is one is parent data is there accepted here. So it means as it is, this one is as it is, here copy is there, assume. Okay, so two datas are there here. Okay, so child will acquire the properties of parent. This is what inheritance. So of course when I run, so we'll get 10 10 20. Oh sorry, 10 20 10, right? First b we are printing again here, 10 20 10. Right, hope you guys got a clarity on inheritance. Let us see some types of inheritance here. Okay, so there are four types of inheritance are there. So one is single level inheritance. Okay, single level inheritance means, okay, so one child is having one parent is nothing but single level inheritance. Then something called multi-level inheritance. So the inheritance level is more than a level, more than one level is nothing but multi-level inheritance. Okay, so for suppose there is a parent is there is a child is there, and the child is having a child is going to behave itself as a parent. So now class something called grandchild extends child now. So this is multi-level inheritance. So now child is having parent, grandchild is having the child. So it means this grandchild will have both the properties of child as well as the parent. So how many data is present in the grandchild? Two datas. I haven't given any data, any variable, but we are extending child and child is extending parent. So child have both a parent and child data. Now grandchild is extending child, so grandchild will have both parent and child data. So if you create one object for grandchild, child2 dot a, see child2 dot a you can access and child2 dot b also you can access. Correct? So because this is multi-level inheritance. Okay, so the level of inheritance is more than one level. Okay, so there is something called hierarchical inheritance. Hierarchical inheritance is nothing but one parent will have multiple childrens. Okay, now parent have child, child have grandchild. Okay, so hierarchical inheritance means let me take a new class as main 2. One parent is having multiple child classes. Now for suppose there is a class A, assume this is a parent, and class B is extends class A, and class C is also extending class A. Okay, so one parent is having multiple childs. Okay, you can create n number of childs for A. So that is what hierarchical. Let me draw the diagram so that you will get a clarity on this. Okay. So now if you observe, single level inheritance means one parent will have only one child. So one child acquire the properties of parent. Multi-level inheritance means the level of inheritance is more than one level. So it means one parent will have one child and the child will be acted as a one more parent itself. Okay, so means it is parent for the grandchild. Okay, so now grandchild will have the properties of child as well as the properties of parent. If we want, we can create multiple grandchilds here. So again, for grandchild, we'll create one more other grandchild. So all the properties will be acquired to him. Okay, hierarchical inheritance means one parent having multiple child. Okay, so now child 1 is inheriting parent, child 2 is also inheriting parent, child 3 is also inheriting parent. Okay, these are the three types of inheritances are there, and there is one more inheritance is there, which is nothing but multiple inheritance, which is not supported by the Java. Okay, so what do you mean by multiple inheritance? Means one child having multiple parents. That is not at all possible in real life as well as in Java also. Correct. One child doesn't have multiple parents, okay, right? See, this is what multiple inheritance. Okay, one child is having multiple parents. This is not at all possible in Java. Okay, so you can't make for one child, so that means a child extends parent 1 comma parent 2. It is not at all possible. Okay, throw classes not supported. Throw classes, there is something called interface. Throw interface it is possible, but throw classes it is not supported. Okay, so hope you guys got a clarity on the types of inheritance. Now let us understand the concept of typecasting. Okay, so This typecasting plays an important role in our entire Java concepts. Okay, so that too when you are making relation between multiple classes, so through inheritance. Okay, parent and child relation and all when you are performing, typecasting plays an important role. So typecasting means converting one type to another type. So here typecastings are of two types. One is primitive typecasting, another one is non-primitive typecasting. In primitive typecasting again divided into two types. One is widening and more is narrowing. So in non-primitive one is upcasting, one more is downcasting. So first of all, what is you mean by primitive typecasting? Converting primitive data type to one more primitive data type is known as primitive typecasting. Similar way non-primitive also. Converting one non-primitive type to another non-primitive type is known as non-primitive typecasting. So first let us see primitive, later we'll see non-primitive. So in primitive typecasting we are having something called widening. So widening means converting lower data type to higher data type. Okay, so converting lower data type to higher data type is known as widening concept. Okay, so what are the lowest data types? So first let us write that. So first byte, then short, then int, then long, float, double. Okay, so in between short and int character will come. Okay, so int, long, float, double, at last boolean. Okay, one bit. Okay, byte is having one byte, so 2 bytes, 4 bytes of memory, so 8 bytes and then 16 bytes and 1 bit, right? So these and all we have studied, right? Already we have studied. So lower to higher conversion. So boolean you can't convert here. You can convert from byte to long, byte to float, short to double, character to double. So this is you can convert. So how can you do that? So first suppose I am taking a double, d is equals to 10. So what I am taking 10. 10 is storing inside the t here. 10 is storing inside the d here. So it means 10 is a what? Integer type. Integer type data we are storing it into double. So smaller type data storing in larger type data is nothing but widening. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity on this. So why we need to perform some scenarios, we don't have some storages, so at that time to increase that memory capacity we will do like this. Okay, and you can try long to, so long type of data you are taking and trying to insert in float or double. So okay, so widening, so from short to long. Okay, smaller type to bigger type. So next is nothing but narrowing concept. Narrowing is quite opposite to the widening. So when you see in widening, it's converting lower type data to higher type. When it comes to narrowing, converting higher data type to lower data type. Okay, so first suppose these are all the data types here. So first suppose I am taking one int a is equals to 10 20.5. Is it possible to store like this? Of course it is not possible, because bigger type data you can't store it in smaller type. For suppose I am having 1 liter bottle and 2 liter water bottle. So 1 liter water can be filled in 2 liters, but 2 liters water can't be filled in 1 liter. If you forcefully do, some data loss will happen. So if you want to do forcefully, you can do here by using typecast operator. So 20.5 and you can take int. So this is a double data you are converting to integer, so data loss. So 20.5 will be modified as 20, so int a value will become 20 now. Here also you can do here like adding double. Typecast operator is parenthesis double, but implicitly it will happen here. Okay, you no need to add like that. Okay, so here it is implicit typecasting. When it comes to here, explicit typecasting. So we need to mandatorily explicitly provide it. This is about widening and narrowing. So next we need to understand the important point, that is upcasting and downcasting. So upcasting and downcasting will come under relationship. Okay, so non-primitive type. So whenever you have two classes relation, then only you can perform upcasting. Okay. So converting child type to parent type you can assume, but actually the definition is creating child object and storing in the parent reference. Okay, you can create the child object and store it in your parent reference. This is nothing but upcasting. What is the advantage of upcasting here? Generalization. What do you mean by this? Actually, creating object of child and storing in parent. What is
Okay.
this? Now, first suppose I am having a class A and class B is extending class A. So A is a parent, B is a child. Child is having parent. So whenever you need to perform upcasting, so relation is mandatory. So let me write it here. Parent and child relation mandatory. So creating child object and storing it into the parent reference, and the advantage is nothing but generalization. So how can we create the object of child class here? New B. So creating child object and storing it in the parent reference. This is what upcasting here. So what I did, parent class child class object created, stored it in parent reference. We can do like this. Previously what we are doing, previously we are store it in the child reference only. Now what I am telling, upcasting means child object create, store it in the parent reference. Okay, this is what upcasting. But there is a disadvantage for this upcasting here. What is the disadvantage here means? Here we can't access child members. This is the biggest disadvantage. So now using this object reference, if for suppose here something int b is there, is equals to 20, something is there like that. Now if you call, so child object you created, store it in parent reference. So when you call object dot b system.out.println of object dot b, if you are calling, so it will give one error. Okay, because when you do upcasting you can't access the child member. If it is a b type you can call, but when it is upcasting you can't call. Object dot b whenever you call, so a type it will check, so in a there is no b, it will throw error. Okay, then why we need to do this? Because the greatest advantage is generalization. First suppose, let us understand with this with an example here. First suppose I need to hire an employee based on their skill. Okay, so based on their skill I am going to hire three people. Okay, so I can hire here either a developer, or I can hire a tester, or I can hire a HR. Okay, so based on their interview performance I am going to think, I am going to decide which person I need to take. So there is a hiring is happening, developer is having employee, tester is also having employee, and HR is also having employee. So first suppose assume that I have created a parent class, that each parent is having three childs. One is developer child, tester child, HR child. So whenever the user is selected, that object will be created and that information will be stored. Okay, so now I want to create a variable. So if I created a developer variable, for suppose developer d, developer d I have created here. Okay, so I have created a developer d here. So whenever uh, interview person came, candidate came, and he is given the interview and he selected for developer. So can I store in this variable new developer? Yes, of course we can store. So what if the person is poor in coding language? So he is okay with the theoretical part and he has some knowledge on the coding concept, not complete. So I can hire him as a tester, right? If I'm hiring him as a tester, then tester object should be injected, right? Is it possible that in developer D, is it possible to store new tester? Is there any relation? Is there developer and tester now here? No, both objects are not related. So this is wrong. So if HR selected, can I insert HR inside developer object reference? No, it is not at all possible. If I create a tested object reference, if developer selected, is it possible to inside tester reference? Is it possible to inject developer? No. Tester reference if you created, only tester you can store. HR if you created, only HR you can store. Developer created, developer only you can store. But if you make it as an employee as a variable, okay, employee you have created e variable. So in this e you can store, if developer selected, you can add the developer. Okay, if tester selected, you can add the tester, and if HR selected, even HR reference also you can add. Okay, so the concept is what, whenever which person is selected, that object need to create, it should be injected in a variable so that I can access their data. Okay, so if I made employee, I can store any one of his developer, tester, HR, any of the data I can store. Okay, but the disadvantage is I can't access the child members. This is what generalization here. Okay, within one parent reference, you can store any of its child member. That is what generalization. What is, so how can we overcome this? Like we can't access the child member, right? So here also, A you have created, sorry, B object created, stored it in A. You can't access the child member. So how can I do that? By doing downcasting, we can overcome this. So downcasting means, okay, so you are converting your parent type to child type. So now for suppose if you are seeing here, let me just copy these two. Now if you observe here, I have a class A, so same example I'm taking. I did an upcasting. So during upcasting, I can't access the child members. So if I try to access, it will be a compile time error. Correct. So this we have seen already. So now I need to access child members also. Then what I will do? So how can I do? So whatever object reference is there, right? Parent object reference. So that we will be converted to child. So instead of can be given to child, converted to child. Okay. So object reference I am taking. That object reference I'll convert to child. So now you can store B. So now you can access both the parent as well as the child members. Okay, so upcasting advantage is, so generalization, any child reference you can store it into the parent. Okay, but when it comes to downcasting, so we can overcome the disadvantage here. Okay, so converting parent type to child so that we can access both child and parent members. So remember this, we will see more programs on this later while doing the projects and all. Okay, so understand this, create multiple classes and try to do the downcasting and upcasting and try accessing the members. So you will get a complete clarity on this. Okay, and one more important point here. Okay, without upcasting, you can't do the downcasting. So downcasting came for the overcoming the disadvantage of upcasting. So that is why when you want to perform downcasting, your object reference must be downcasted. And if I am having class A, class B extends A, and class C extends A. So when I upcasted to one child class, so you have to downcast to the same child class. There is one more important point here. When you upcasted to one class, you need to downcast to the same child class. Okay, so for suppose if you observe here, I'm having a parent and this parent is having two childs. Let us assume that child 1. Okay, theoretically I'm explaining, practically you guys try it, so or else I'll explain that. Okay, so now child 1 is extending parent, child 2 is also extending parent. Now assume that parent told that for child 1 he will give 10,000. Okay, so if he do hard work in studies, so child 1 did hard work in studies and he got 100 out of 100, but parent is giving that amount to the child 2. So how it will be? Is it possible? So he will like accept that? No. So he will not accept. In the same manner, if you do the upcasting here, like new child 1, so created child object and storing it in the parent reference. If you create child object and store it in parent reference, so upcasting date, you have to downcast to the same child 1 only. You upcast to parent 1, you upcasted with child 1, but you are downcasting to child 2. Compilation no error, because child and parent relation only you are performing downcasting. Okay, but at runtime it is upcasted to child 1, but you are downcasting to child 2. It will throw error, class cast exception. So you are taking P and you are converting to its child 1, then it is okay. So if you are creating if you are converting the object reference parent to child 2, it is wrong. So you are going to get compilation error. So when you when you upcasted with one child, you have to downcast to with the same child. Remember this, or else we'll get class cast exception. Programmatically, you guys try. Duration of the video, I'm not doing this programmatically. You guys try programmatically, and if you are not getting the proper answers and all, so comment below so that I can help you with this. So I can create a separate video regarding the code also. Okay, so this is about typecasting, a very important concept, because in collections and all we will use a lot here. So that is upcasting more we will be using. Okay, so hope you guys got a clarity on typecasting. Next, let us understand the concept of polymorphism in Java. Okay, polymorphism means many forms. Poly means many, morphism means forms. In Java, poly means here actually, so it's a Greek word. Poly means many and morphism means forms. Okay, so polymorphism means many forms. So if you want to tell in Java, okay, polymorphism allows the same method to perform different behaviors based on the object type and parameters. Okay, so one entity is going to perform in the different behaviors. Okay, so for suppose if you have taken one example, if you take a person, okay, an actor is there, so an actor will be working as a, so when he is in home he'll behave in one way. Okay, when he is in outside, so if he is in outside, what he will do, his behavior is different. So when he is in their home, then the behavior will be different. Correct? So when he is outside, one behavior he will be having. When he is in home, one behavior will be having. When he is with friends, will be one behavior. When he is with one girlfriend, will be one different behavior. Correct? So the one person only is going to behave in many ways. Okay, the polymorphism is also performs in the same manner, but here there is no persons and all. Here it will be acted as a method actually. Okay, so method means, so we will be having the same method name, but different behaviors will be there based on the object type or parameters. Okay, let me write it here. Okay. So in Java, polymorphism, what it will do, it will allows the same method name to perform different behaviors based on the object type or the parameters. So let me beautify it. So in simple words, if we need to say one interface is having multiple implementations, so we'll understand about that. Before interface we will go with polymorphism, because if we understood polymorphism, so you can easily understand the interface concept. Abstraction also you can easily understand. Okay, so we got a clarity on the definition. So what are the types of polymorphisms in Java? Okay, there are basically two types of polymorphisms are there in Java. So one is compile time polymorphism and another one is nothing but runtime polymorphism. So compile time polymorphism means the behavior is decided at the compilation time. That is nothing but compile time polymorphism. Runtime polymorphism means the behavior will be decided during the runtime. That is nothing but runtime polymorphism. Okay, so let me write it here. So compile time polymorphism means the behavior decided at the compile time, that is known as compile time polymorphism. Behavior decided at runtime is nothing but runtime polymorphism. What is the example of compile time polymorphism here? So it is nothing but method overloading. Okay, so we didn't learn this concept, I'll explain. So when it comes to runtime polymorphism, what is the example here? So there is something called method overriding. Okay, so first let us understand method overloading. Later we'll understand method overriding, and later we'll see the difference between method overloading and method overriding. Okay, so method overloading means creating the same method with different arguments. Okay, so let me write it here. So creating a method with the same name but different argument. So we know, we understood the concept of methods and argument, parameterized method, no argument methods and all, right? So here we will see the method overloading concept. So if you didn't know about the methods concept, please go through that. I have given the link in the description. You can go through that, watch method completely and come back to this video. So let me open Eclipse here. Okay, any name we can give, right, for class name. Okay, I'll be having one main method here. Okay, above that I am writing the method overloading. So method overloading means what? Creating a method with same name but different arguments. I'm having a method public void m1 method. So either the method is static method or non-static method. So in method overloading, so let me take it as a static method. Why? Because static methods, when it comes to static methods, no need to create the objects. So for that purpose I am taking as of now static to understand the method overloading concept. Let me take it as a non-static. Why? Because in OOPS majorly everything will be performed based on the objects. Correct. So I will use with non-static. Of course method overloading will happen with static members also. That is static methods also. So now I am having one more method. So here if you observe, creating a method with same name but different arguments. If I have given the same name, problem will occur. What's the problem? So when I call the m1 method, which m1 method will get called? So for that purpose, same method name you can give but different arguments you need to give. Int a. So now the problem is solved. This concept is known as method overloading. Okay, so now I'll call m1 of int called. So creating a method with same name but different arguments. The arguments may be with different with the number of arguments or the length also. So here you are taking string and here you are taking int. This is also fine. If you see here, I'm taking jalebi object. So because these two are non-static methods, to call this we need to create an object, new jalebi object dot I'm calling m1. So which m1 method will be called? So in the object, so that is in the Jalebi class, whichever m1 method is there, m1 call. This is the behavior, right? So methods are behaviors we have discussed already in class and objects concept. Right, if you don't know, go to this timer. So understand about class and object and come back here. When I call object.m1, so Jalebi class m1 method. So what will be the output? M1 call. So in the compilation time itself it has been decided. So M1 call will be printed. So when I run this, so M1 call is printing. So if I have given some value M1 of 10, M1 of 10 I am giving. So what will happen? So M1 with integer type. So M1 of int will be called. So at the compile time itself it is deciding, correct? M1 of int is called. Without arguments if I give, I can get a clarity. Okay, M1 method is getting called. So run it. So M1 called. Okay. So this is the concept of method overloading. And method overloading performed within a single class. Okay, so within one class we can perform the method overloading. And in interview they will ask one question. Can we override main method? So I create a method name as main and create one more method now, public static void main, with different arguments. Instead of string args I will give int a or boolean uh, something flag like that I'll take. Is it okay to create? Now does JVM will get confusion either we need to call main method this method or this method? No, it will not get confused because JVM will call main with having argument. So always this main method only is going to execute. It will not execute. There is no confusion at all. See, M1 called. So here object created, M1 you are calling. So M1 called has been printed. So this main method is not printing. So can I create one more method with M1 name? Yes, of course. Method overloading means creating methods with different arguments. You can create n number of methods like this. Hope you guys got a clarity on this. Okay, when we are going to use this type of situation. So first suppose we are having an add method. Add method will accept numeric values and decimal values also. So in that situation scenarios I can give a method like public void add method int a int b. So if user is sending a number I can just give add a and add b and I can sum the value. If user is giving decimal values, so decimal values can't be accepted here, right? So at the time what I will do, add of double a comma double b I will take. So see, same method name but different arguments. You can pass a number or if you pass a double digit also it will be added. Okay, integer if you pass it will be, this method will be called. Decimal values if you pass, this method is going to call. That's how simple it is. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity why we are using method overloading concept. Okay, so next, runtime polymorphism. So example is nothing but method overriding. Okay, so the behavior will be decided at the runtime. How can we create how can we do overriding here? So method overloading means creating a method with same name but different arguments. Method overriding means, so in child class creating a method same as it is as parent. So that one we can say it as a child class provides its own implementation. Okay, a child class provides its own implementation of a method. So this is nothing but method overriding means, so already parent is having one method. So but you're not liking that parent method, you want a different logic for that same method. At that time we can use the override concept. Generally override means what? So remove it and add this one. That is only override, right? Okay, so when you are performing the overriding, the decision will be happened at runtime. So how it is possible? So let us see that. Okay, let us understand there is a class called parent. Okay, so parent is assume that parent is purchasing one a new bike for you. The parent told that you are going to get a new bike if you get 99% out of 100. So, but the student got just 40% of marks out of 100. So, just passed. So, parent instead of scolding, so just for motivation, instead of purchasing a brand new bike, uh, she will give an old bike. Okay, so she's giving public void a bike. So, what type of bike it is? An old rusted bike. Okay, because he just qualified, right? He didn't qualify the exam like 90% with 90%. So at least for his satisfaction, something bike she's purchasing. Okay, she or he. Okay, so parent purchased one bike and it's an old rusted bike now. Now there is a person called child. Now child is telling that okay, something whatever I am getting, so I'll get it. So what from where? From the parent. So I will extend from the parent. Okay. So now parent given a parent having one bike, so old rusted bike, and given to the child. So what child will do? Is he going to use the bike as it is? No. What he will do? He will modify the bike. So he don't want that old rusted bike. He needs to change the bike entirely. So what he will do? A public void. He will override the bike method. He will change that bike. Okay, maybe he's going to sell that bike. Assume that he don't want that bike, so he's purchasing a new bike. He will sell that bike and he's purchasing. Okay, so he's whatever her parent given the bike he don't like, so that's why what he has done, whatever she has given that bike, he's going to take and he will modify it is a Royal Enfield bike. So this is what method overriding. So the method, so the child is having its own behavior. It will not be having same like the parent. So whenever you are performing method overriding, you have to give the same access modifier. You have to give the same return type. You have to give the same method name. In case if you are having any arguments, same arguments you have to give. Okay, remember this. So this is what overriding. But sometimes if in method instead of bike I have written like bike, does this a concept of overriding? So parent is giving one bike, he is having a some sort different bike, right? These two are different methods right now. Now child is not overriding, so you have to be sure that method name also should be same, and return type, access mode, everything should be same. So then only your overriding will happen, or else it will not happen. So I want to make sure I should not do spelling mistake. If I do spelling mistake, it should show compilation error, so that I can understand okay, this is a overriding concept, so I need to give the same as it is. So for that purpose we are having one annotation called override. Okay, at override annotation what it will do, it will make sure that you're overriding, so as it is the data should be there as parent. Okay, if you change one small letter here, it will tell, hey boss, you are trying to override the bike, you're trying to override the bike, but spelling mistake is there, rectify it. So see, but if you are not giving auto override, it will be accepted, but overriding is not there. This is not a overriding now, it's a new bike, it's a different, he is not accepting the bike itself. So we have to make it as a bike like this. Okay, now how the method behavior is happening at runtime with the help of upcasting. Now if you see, when I create a new bike, sorry, new parent, right? So I'm creating a parent object and I'm storing it in parent reference. So this is normal, I can access the parent. So what if I made it to child? This is what upcasting. So creation of child object and storing it inside the parent reference. Correct? So this is what upcasting here. Okay, in upcasting we can't access the child members. So but we can access the parent members, right? So I will give parent dot bike. So only in the method overriding concept, when you have call with the parent reference with up, when you have did the upcasting, at that time at runtime it will check the instance. What is the instance? Child. So child bike is going to be executed. Okay, generally what I said, with upcasting we can access only parent members. But if it is overridden, the bike is overridden, it will call always the overridden methods. Remember this. When upcasting done, parent class members only can be accessed, child will not be accessed. But when it is overridden, so and upcasting is done, always the overridden methods will be executed. Okay, so now if I run, so parent is giving one bike, but he is overriding it, it is modifying it to Royal Enfield Bullet bike newly. Okay, so overridden method is going to executed at compile time. So Royal Enfield Bullet at compile time, if you see, I am controlling and clicking. At compile time, it is going to the bike only. Okay, so the binding will happen at the compile time, but if when I run, the behavior is decided at the runtime. Okay, so what if I have given as a child? So then child only, so always child bike only it will call. So now it's normal. But when I have given parent control click, so it's calling in the parent class, but compile time at compile time it's calling the parent class bike, but at runtime decision behavior decision has been done with the child. See Royal Enfield Bullet. Even parent means that we know parent class is having bike, so that class only it will call. Child and child, if you are using both sides, reference as well as object. So child, of course, obviously. So at override is optional to provide, but it's our safety purpose to write at override concept, at override here. Okay, hope you guys got a clarity on polymorphism. So we can remodify this definition here. And one more thing, method overloading happen within one class. Method overriding will be happening with the help of two classes. Okay, one is parent and child. Okay, so here you can write it like method binding. Okay, so binding we have seen. So at compile time, parent dot bike means parent bike is binding with the parent class. Okay, method binding will happen at compile time and same behavior is executed. Same behavior. Okay, now I modified the definition here. The method binding will happen at compile time and same behavior executed. If you see the example here in Jalebi class, so the method binding object.m1 method binding happened at compile time. It is telling that this m1 method will execute. The same thing is executing. Okay, same behavior will execute. But when it comes to method overriding, the binding will happen at compile time. So at compile time it will tell parent class is going to be executed, but at runtime the different behavior executed, so that is child member executing. Okay, this is what method overloading and method overriding concept. Let us understand the concept of abstraction. Abstraction in Java means hiding the implementation details and showing only what is necessary to the user. Okay, so it means we will hide the implementation and provide the functionality in simple manner if we want to say. So let me open doc and let me write it. Okay, so in Java, abstraction means hiding the implementation and providing the functionality. So whatever the implementation is there, that we are going to hide, and we will just show the functionality. For an example, if you go to a 5-star hotel, so and you ordered some biryani, So what they will do, they will cook the biryani in the kitchen and they'll bring you biryani. So they will hide the process of making biryani, correct? So they'll just bring the biryani to you. Okay, so whatever the functionality is required, that only they are giving. Okay, I can give you a more clear example here. If you see, we are having a car, so majorly we know about the car. So when you are using a car, you will use steering, accelerator and brakes. Okay, so in car we will use steering, accelerator and brake and all. Okay, so gear and some other and all. So but we don't require the engine internal, how the engine is internally working. Okay, these and all not required, right? So hiding that functionality. Okay, sorry, hiding the implementation. So if you take a car, so we will use steering, accelerator and brakes, and we don't need to know how the engine is automatic, how the engine is internally working. These things we don't need required. How can we use steering, how can we use accelerator, brakes? So the functionality, main functionalities are we required, so we don't want the internal implementation. Okay, so for that purpose we are using abstraction. It's a very very important concept in the oops. Okay, so in Java, when it comes to Java, what it will do, so it majorly focuses on what an object does. Okay, not how it does. Okay, so abstraction focus majorly on what the object is going to perform, and internally how it is performing, that is not the matter. Okay, that is what abstraction. So what is the uses of this? So it reduces the complexity and improves the security and makes code easy to maintain, and it supports loose coupling also. So loose coupling means, so multiple classes will be related, but if you change in one place, so it will not affect the other one. Okay, that is what loose coupling, we'll see that and all. Now we have to know, so we understood what is abstraction and what it is going to do and all, we got a clarity. But how can we achieve abstraction? How abstraction achieved in Java? Okay, so abstraction can be achieved in two ways. One is using abstract classes and another one is using interfaces. Okay, so either by creating abstract class or by using interfaces you can achieve abstraction. So why two concepts here? With any one concept itself we can achieve, right? Yes, there are some differences are there between abstract classes and interfaces. Okay, first let us see using abstraction using abstract class. So to perform abstraction or to achieve abstraction, we will use abstract class or interface. And here you need to understand how can we create an abstract class. Abstract class can be created using a keyword called abstract. Interface can be created using a keyword called interface. And here you need to understand the main thing here, abstract method. So abstract method. So how can we create an abstract method? So abstract method means which will have the functionality. It doesn't have any implementation. So how a method will have, even the abstract method is also same. But only method body will not be there. Here method declaration only will be there. First suppose I need to create a method, means public void m1 you will be creating. Okay, and static you will give. Abstract method are always non-static methods. Okay, and abstract, so this is a normal method I have created, is a normal method. So non-static method how we will create like this. But for abstract method this body is there, right? Method body, so that will not be there. Only the functionality will be there. Okay, so remember, note point. So abstract method should always be non-static method. So because everything is performing here through objects, so it should be a non-static method, and it doesn't have any method body. Okay, so for the abstract method it should always be a non-static method and it doesn't have any method body. Okay, so just the functionality, so method name only will be there, return type and access modifier. Return type can be anything, void or any return type, boolean, number, anything we can give here. So next, one more important point. So if a class is having a abstract method, then the class must be an abstract class. Okay, remember this. And now let us see one example using this. And one more important note point here. Before going to see the example, you need to understand, you need to remember this point. Okay, so abstract classes cannot be instantiated. So let us see how this way all 4 points we are going to combine and use, and how the hiding implementation and providing functionality will happen. Let us see that. So I am creating a class called vehicle class. Okay, and I am making the name as abstract public class vehicle. So public means anyway you can access. And if you see this class, I'm making as an abstract class. Okay, if you make the class as an abstract class, you can't instantiate. Okay, abstract classes can't be instantiated. So I made this class as an abstract class, so you can't instantiate. Why, we will discuss. So let me create an abstract method, abstract void start. So vehicle is going to start, right? I'll just provide the functionality. I don't have any implementation, so I'll just provide void start. And I'm having one more method called fuel type. Okay, bike, which type of vehicle you are using, based on that fuel type you are going to use. So in the sysad, what I will do, uses fuel, something like that I'll give. So this is an abstract class. Now we can't create object for the abstract class. Why? So if you create an object for abstract class, you're going to call the abstract method. Where is the implementation? We only have the functionality. Where, what about the implementation? Implementation will be hidden, but where? So that is why what I will do, I'll create a new class as car. Okay, so now car is making relation with vehicle. So now there is a class I have created, extends vehicle, and it is showing one error. Why? Because if a class is having relation with abstract class, then that child class must and should provide the implementation of abstract method. Okay, so it's a normal concrete class, right? Concrete class you can create the objects. Okay, but for abstract class you can't create object because it will have abstract method, no implementation. If you call this method, nothing is there, so that's why it is showing error if you create an object for this abstract class. But this is a normal class, right? So you need to provide, so whenever you have given car, so whatever vehicle having two methods, it will be inherited here. Okay, so either you need to make this as an abstract. If I make this as an abstract, it will, error will go. But again, now here we are having an abstract method, we don't have implementation. Again the functionality only, the start method is copied here, inherited here. So again error. So what I will do, I'll just implement. So how can you implement? Override the method. So next, another method, is it mandatory? No, it's optional, fuel type, because it's a concrete, so it is having the implementation. If you want, you can provide override and you can provide that implementation also. So now I will give something like car starts with key, something like that. Okay, internal implementation. So assume that internally like this it is happening. Now in the main method, what I will do, okay, in the main class, so as we discussed, we can access multiple classes. So now what we are trying to access, we need a car has to be started. We need a vehicle, and that vehicle is having one start method. At that start method, when I click, I need to perform the action. So whether it is starting with a key or starting with a button. Okay, so these details and all required. So what we will do, I'll create a new vehicle. Okay, so if you create a new vehicle, is it possible to create a new vehicle first of all? You can't, because it's an abstract method. So what you will do, you will create an object called car, and you will store it in vehicle. So upcasting, when you want to perform abstraction, then upcasting is mandatory. So creation of child object, store it in parent reference. Then if you call vehicle dot start, if you see when I am clicking on this, we will be having the functionality here. Start. We will be having the functionality. Where is the implementation? That implementation decided at runtime. So here new car. So implementation happen. Okay, this is what happens. Okay, generally all the classes are present here, but in future when we use libraries, we will be having the vehicle only. It will show vehicle only for us. Abstract method only will be visible. Implementation, where they have given, we don't know that. When you click on start, see, only functionality it is showing, but implementation is present in car, because here we know. In future we don't know the implementation. So when I run, car starts with a key. So when I click on start, it is not showing any functionality. But when I run this, I'm getting car starts with a key. How? At the during the runtime, so car object will be loaded, car object overridden method will be executed. So this we already discussed override concept in polymorphism. Hope you guys got a clarity on this. Let me add two more note points here. Okay, so if a child class is having relation with abstract class, like here, so car is having relation with vehicle, then it must override your abstract method, or you can make this class as also abstract. So if you make this as abstract, so you can't create object again here. So again child class only. Okay, so that's why it's better to override the abstract method. Okay, so now in the vehicle, if you see, are we achieving 100% abstraction here? No, we have concrete method also. We don't have only functionality. Implementation is hidden and implementation written in car. Correct. So, am I achieving 100% abstraction? Means no. So, due to these difficulties, interface comes with the solution. Okay. So, interface helps us to achieve 100% abstraction. Before Java 8, okay, remember this. But once Java 8 is introduced, so after that it is not used for 100% abstraction. Okay, so the 100% abstraction was not there in interfaces after Java 8 introduced. Okay, we will see that and all. Okay, first of all, what is an interface? Interface, okay, it is a blueprint of class. Okay, so what do you mean by a class? Class is a blueprint for object. Interface is blueprint of class. Means whatever class should have, that will be decided in the interface itself. Okay, so majorly interface contains abstract methods. Okay, so allowed only abstract methods. Okay, till Java 8. Okay, so till Java 8, only abstract methods are allowed. You can't create any static or non-static, any method you can't create. Okay, so interface is also similarly performed like that. And you are not going to use a keyword called class, you will use the keyword called interface. To create an interface keyword is used. Okay, let us directly see the code and let us understand this. So already abstraction, we are having an abstract class car and engine. So let us take something different. Now let me take an interface now. Okay, it's not a class, now it's an interface. So public only I'm making it. Let me make it as a payment. So there is an interface called payment. Okay, it contains only abstract methods. It doesn't have any concrete methods till Java 8. After Java 8, so there is something called default methods and static methods are introduced. So later private methods are also introduced. Okay, So let us discuss before Java 8. Java 8 concept, let me upload a separate video, not in oops. So there is a method called pay method. Okay, so it's an abstract method I am creating, and where is the implementation? Implementation will be hidden. Okay, only the functionality will be shown. Implementation I will be creating, but in future and all it will be present separately. So when we go to Spring, JDBC, frameworks, everywhere implementation will be hidden, only functionality will be there with us. Okay, while discussing Hibernate, Spring Boot and all, I'll explain that. Okay, so credit card payment, let me take the class as a credit card payment. So how can we make a relation with class? By using extends keyword. How can you make a relationship with interface? By using a keyword called implements. So credit card payment implements what it is implementing? The interface payment, and the same rule will be applicable. Either this class should be override the abstract methods, or this class should be made it as an abstract class. Okay, so we are going to override this because we are providing the implementation here, and here in the implementation I'll mention it as payment done through credit card. So in main what I will do, new payment. So is it possible to create object of payment? No. So you can't create object for interfaces here also. So what you can do, you can create the child object. In future, like in Spring Boot and all, if you see, this object creation will not do. This object creation will be done by some containers are there, it will be creating. But as of now, we need to know. Okay. So and it will be stored it in the payment. So now when I give payment dot pay, so at compile time, so whenever I am clicking on pay, see only pay functionality only will be visible. I have visible only functionality. What is the implementation here? When I run this, at the time I'll get it. So payment done through credit card. So credit card payment. So here you need to remember one thing. Interface to interface relation, if you are making extends keyword, and interface to class, it should be implements keyword. So let me add that here. Okay, so now if you see interface and class, interface class, so when you are making relation between interface and interface, you have to use the keyword extend. Okay, when you are making interface to interface relation, you have to use extends. And a class with interface, a class implements the interface, so you have to use the keyword implements. Okay, interface to class, you are not going to pause it, it is not going to be done, because interface is having only abstract methods, class is having only concrete methods. Okay, class does in or a concrete class doesn't have any abstract method, right? So interface and class not applicable. Okay, but class to class it is extends. Okay, remember this pattern, remember this relationship. So whenever you're performing relationship, you have to use this. And whenever you are making relation with class and class, you will use extends, and only one class can be possible. So when you do extends, okay, only one relation is possible. Okay, means a class can extend only one class, it can't extend multiple classes. When it comes to class to interface, multiple relations we can perform. So let me show that directly. If you see interface payment is there, and there is a class called interface account. Oh sorry, let me take it as a interface account. Okay, so I am not writing any method here. If you want, you can write abstract methods and all. Okay, now there is credit card payment is there, right? So now credit card payment is implement payment. Credit card payment is having relation with payment. Along with I can make a relation with account also. See, comma, it will. So a class to class when you try, so in the inheritance, child extends parent, grandchild extends parent. Okay, but grandchild extends child comma parent. You can't give the comma like this. Okay, only with one class you can make relation, and it can be linked like this, one to one, then from here to here. But when it comes to interface, you can make relation with multiple interfaces. Okay, when you are doing relation with interface, you can extend one class also, like I'm having a class called bank. Class with class, what will happen? Extends, right? So class credit card extends bank and implements accounts. See, whenever you are doing implement, you can extend one class. Whenever you are extending one multiple classes, it is not possible. I hope you guys got a clarity on extension implements difference. Okay, when you are using implements, you can use one time extends. Okay, but that also be you have to give like this. Credit card first should extend with a class. At last, it should implements with the interfaces. Okay, remaining and all common. Okay, about these and all we will be seeing more in our future concepts. Extending, implementing and all we'll see in collection frameworks a lot. Here, while understanding abstraction itself, we understood the interface concept also. Okay, and that's it. If you know this one oops concept, you can easily learn JDBC, Hibernate, Spring Boot. So whatever other technologies are also there, you can easily understand. Okay, so hope you guys got a complete clarity on the oops concept. So we will meet you in the next video.